Hello, hello, hello. I hope everybody is doing well. I am excited to go live. I haven't been live in a little bit now. I've been busy. All good things though. So it's been good busy, and we like good busy. Okay, let me just make for sure that you guys can see me, and then we will get into it. All right, so let me know when you are here. Let me know that you are here so I can say hi and interact with y'all because obviously that is part of the fun. That's part of um, the joy of doing what it is that I do. So let me know that you are here when you hop on so that I can say hello. So Bible study. That's what I want to talk about today. Is I want to talk about Bible study as um, kind of just thinking about Crown Rocker U and where I wanted to go, kind of my dreams about it and my goals for it. I realized something really key, and I was like, you know what? I'm biting off more than I can chew in terms of making it so much bigger than it needs to be right now, right? And I shared this in one of the TikToks that I did, but I think we need to learn not to get bored with the basics, right? I think at its core, at my heart, that's what I want, right? I want us to um, fall in love again or to reignite a new passion or a new fire for the basics because they are the basics for a reason, right? They are foundational. We need them to grow, to learn as stepping stones to the next thing, right? The basics are the exact game changers that we need. Hello, Latara. But the basics are the exact game changers we need, right? And so sometimes I think just in our passion and our zeal and our desire, it can be easy to run past the basics, right? To run past the foundational key things that not only ground us, but that lead to the exact transformation that we are looking for, right? To that exact change that we're yearning for, that we're striving for, that we're trying to get to. And so I think one of those um, and one of the things that I want to focus on is Bible study. I think it's one of those things that we can let very easily go stale. It can be stale, it can be boring. And I think also there's a lot of us who just maybe don't even know necessarily where to start or how to start or why to start or why it's important, right? Why we even need it in the first place. And so I think in order for us to not get bored with the basics, we need to start to understand the basics, like why we even do the things that we do. Hello, Miss Mandy. I'm glad you are on here live. Um, and so, why? So, my heart behind it, right? Why to me Bible study is so important is because I have lived through chaos, right? I know what it is to be resentful, to be angry all the time. I know what it feels like to be miserable, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just miserable, right? And all of the other emotions in between. And now, on the other side of that, right? When I look back um, and I think about, okay, and I'm asked this often, like, okay, if you went through all those things, like how are you normal, right? Like how are you um stable and okay now, right? To where I can tell you the story but without bleeding all over you with my story, right? And 100% when I look back, the reason why I can be more emotionally and spiritually regulated and more mature in that area is by going back to the basics and Bible study being one of them. Okay. I am not perfect by no means, but I am now definitely on the right side of insanity. um, and so Bible study was part of that process. It was part of how I got from that side that you don't want to be on to this side, right? To the good side. And so I want to talk about that today, right? I want to uncover it a little bit, kind of talk a little bit about what it is, the benefits, tackle some pain points as we talk about it, and then also give you some solid steps to get you started. So, now that I've done the fun intro, we'll do the video and then we will get right into it.
It's a mindset shift. Happiness is the key to success. Stardust in the building. Let's go. Oh, what a feeling. This happy, happy feeling. Happy, 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 happy. I can't explain. This happy, happy feeling. Happy, happy, happy. Oh, what a feeling. What?
All right, dance break and drink break over. Nice. Now we can get into it. So I'm going to start first with answering the question, what's the big deal? So let's talk about what's the big deal, right? So, what do I even mean when I say Bible study? So, when I say Bible study, I'm talking about spending time in scripture, right? And not just reading it, like just I read the words, I understood them, I moved on with my day, but actually digging into what it's all about, right? Actually reading it to understand what is going on, and reading it to with a purpose, right? So more than just the fact that your brain and your eyes can physically have you read, right? When I say Bible study, I'm talking about actually like getting into the meat and potatoes of it, right? Tasting all of the salt and pepper and all the savory bits in there, right? And all the textures and all the nuances and all the richness that is in there that you don't get by just skim reading it, right? So when I say Bible study, what I'm talking about is about connection, not just connection with the text, like physically I'm holding my Bible or my phone to read it on the app, or physically my eyes are working, but a connection with its author, right? So building relationship with the author, of the Bible, and then basically getting the playbook straight from the coach, right? Um, like I said, I've lived on the other side of insanity, like Latara likes to say, and she's on here. Um, and she says it because that's exactly what it feels like. But getting out of that chaos, right, meant that I needed to connect with um, with my faith, but with the author of my faith in a new way, right? What I'd been doing wasn't working. I was stuck in a dead end place that I had no idea on my own how to get out of. And just like a coach would do, right? Um, in any sort of athletic setting, right? They're not just gonna let you um just throw the game away, right? No, they'll bust out their playbook and help you play, like do the right plays, right, at the right time, kind of coach you through it. And so for me, it was that reconnecting to the source of that, right? Reconnecting to um the Bible in a way that it was now my playbook, right? In a way that I wasn't just skimming and just reading what it said, but like I need real answers. Okay, I need real solutions. My life is lifing and I don't know what to do about it. And that's what it felt like, was like getting the playbook straight from the coach, right? Like, oh, you're feeling this way, this is how to tweak that emotion, right? This situation is happening in your life, or you're worried about your finances, you're worried about provision. Here's how to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. Here's how to seek me for provision. Here's what my provision actually looks like, right? And so it was about digging into those things and reconnecting then with God on that, and then starting to read for the, like I said, for the depth, right? For the nuance. Start to read it more like, how does this apply to me, right? All these words that were written, however, 2000 plus years ago, right? Even longer, by these divinely inspired authors. How does that apply to my life? And how does that apply to my situation right now? Okay. And what I discovered, again, that whole kind of playbook analogy, is that the Bible is true to what it says, right? The word is a lamp unto your feet, right? And a lamp shows you one step at a time. And a lot of days it was that. It was just the one step. Like, um, okay, you don't have peace in your life, right? What are the scriptures that talk about peace, that talk about God being peace, that even just the stories that talk about people living in peace, right? What are those stories? And how do I sit with those stories and make them a part of, or integrate them into my story, right? If those people had peace, or if you're promising me that you give me peace, then I'm going to sit right here, okay, until I feel that peace. I will sit right here and dig in until I start to change and be transformed in the way that you're telling me that I can be transformed, right? Um, and so that's part of how it started, was me looking at what I needed and then going to find it. Not all Bibles, but a lot of Bibles, and not even the Bible itself. You can just Google this now, right? Was a lot of Googling, like, verses to overcome fear, or verses when my money's low, right? All the provision ones, versus when I'm feeling depressed, versus for being reminded, to trust in God. And that's how it started, was literally like, what is it that I need in this moment? And then going to find those verses and then sitting on them and just really reading it, like, okay, what is the context? Like, what is the story in which this verse appears? What was going on in that man's life, right? Um, I wrote the book on broken prayers. Part of where that book came from, part of where that idea of, actually I can pray broken prayers, and God can hear them, and do what he does, right? And work my situation out from good, was from those initial searches, right? And then finding verses or stories that pertain, to Moses or to Jeremiah, and reading their stories and being like, oh my gosh, Moses and Jeremiah were both like, yo, if this is the life you've given me, it's better that I just wasn't born, right? Like, you can just take me out now. And that spoke to me because that is how I was feeling, right? And so to read verses of hope, but in context of, oh my gosh, these characters went through the same thing I went through, right? In terms of feeling the same way. They are also like, if this is what it's gonna be, then then I'm out, right? Then just take me out. Jonah was big mad too. Jonah said the same thing. He said, I'm just going to sit by this tree, or just sit down over here, and you can just take me out. Like, that's just how I'm feeling today, right? And sometimes that is the energy, but being able to read those stories and to be able to look at, okay, wait, what does that mean for me? Started me on the journey of, like, okay, you're not alone. You're not um crazy, right? Like, not just in real life, like tangible people, but people in history have felt this, and more than one character in the Bible has gone through this thing that you're going through. And so if they could come out, what can I glean from their life? What can I study from them that will help me get up out of my own mess and my own chaos? And so that's where it started. which again, as I've been saying, kind of led to um, thinking then about the tough questions, right? I know 100% I am not the only one who's been there, who's been stressed, who's been confused, who's felt lonely, who just has not known what to do, who has uttered the words that the struggle is real. All the other cliches about riding the struggle bus, lifing, all the things, right? You have felt it too. Um, we all have gone through something, or we're currently going through something, or we're about to go through something, right? We're all somewhere on this continuum of life and just things happening. Um, and some of the things are not for the whole internets to hear, right? Some of it is none their business. Okay. Some of it is your kingdom business. And that's where Bible study comes in, right? Because there's things that sometimes you need to work out in the secret place, right? Things that 100% you need community around you, right? If I didn't believe that, Crown Rocker you wouldn't be structured the way it is, right? We need community, we need each other, right? But there's also sometimes, even within that, where the work to heal, the heart work that we need to do needs to be between you and your Heavenly Father, right? And in order to know his heart and to know what, like, his thoughts and what he's thinking, you need to be in the word, right? You need to study his character, you need to study what he has said about himself, what other people have said, how he has shown up for other people in situations, right? um I almost lost my kids, right? There was a time years ago now, whatever, 12, 13 years ago now, where I almost lost my kids, right? I was getting evicted. Well, I had been evicted, right? So I had to move somewhere. My relationship had fallen apart in spectacular fashion, right? Somebody breaking into your home and trying to murk you, will kind of do that. And I needed help, and more than needing help, I also needed hope. And I needed it right now, right? I had a bunch of things to figure out. But I was so overwhelmed that, like, knowing where to start was a struggle. And so I am grateful that I had women around me and people that could come alongside me and at least help me, point me in the direction of where to start. But there was a lot of stuff just emotionally, mentally, and spiritually that I had to work out in the secret place, right? There was a lot of things that I didn't understand it in my own mind. So to even try and explain that to somebody else was hard. And so my quiet time of devotion, my quiet time sitting with these stories, of Moses and of Esther and of Ruth and Hannah and just all the myriad of characters, right? In that time that we sat together and read through these stories and got to intimately know the stories of these people in history, a lot of my transformation, so a lot of my perspective shift, right? A lot of that hope that I was so desperate for started to bubble up in me in those times when I just sat with these stories, right? When I sat with the Bible and I stopped just reading it to read it, but like, you say, right, that I'm a new creation. You say that I am your child. You say that I have the mind of Christ. I need to see that. Like, I need to see that in real time right now. How do I do that? And part of that was just sitting with his word, right? I think about the big one, right? So, well, not just for me, I mean, for many people, but Psalm 23 was a big one for me, right? And it didn't just soothe me, but it transformed me. Like, I literally sat with it sentence by sentence, right? Really thinking about what it said and what the implications of it would be, right? So if it says that, what does that mean for me, right? So let me pull it up here. I had it up. Um, and then I'll just, oops, okay, I'll just read it to you. But, and this is out of the Passion translation, right? But it says, Yahweh is my best friend and my shepherd. I always have more than enough, right? Just those two sentences had me stuck on those. Even now, right? Years later, I still get stuck on these because it was that, like, man, like if God is my best friend, right? Even just sitting on that, just meditating on that part, like he's my best friend. Like I can tell him anything, right? He's got my back. He's got my best interests at heart, right? He genuinely is for me. He loves me for me. He's everywhere I am. He shows up for me, right? So the things that I think a best friend would do, like that's what we do, right? Sometimes we're just kicking it and laughing, right, at things that are happening, or just having good conversation. So even just that first part, right? Um, Yahweh is my best friend and my shepherd, right? So then I'd stop there. Like, what does shepherd mean? And if God is my shepherd, what does that mean? Then what does that mean for my life? What does that mean? How do I apply that then in my life, right? What are the implications of that? How do I move different knowing that he's my shepherd? How do I walk different knowing that how do I navigate the situation different if he's leading me, if he's guiding me, right? Um, I always have more than enough. Man, especially as a single mom, um, that provision always felt so hard, right? It felt like I was constantly chasing it and just never had enough. And to read those words in Psalms and be like, I have more than enough, right? It expanded my mind in terms of, yes, obviously, physically, I need dollars, right? Like I need actual real money. But it also expanded my mind to be like, if I have more than enough of what? Right? Like, well, yes, what would it look like to have more than enough money? But also, what would it look like if I had more than enough peace right now? Right? What would it look like if I had more than enough rest, right? If I could just get a full 8 hours, okay, what would that look like? What would that look like to have more than enough in terms of like my friendships, right? And the quality of people that I have around me. So it wasn't just so yes, 100%. It started with the thing that I needed the most, like Lord, I need you to, to help me find this rent this month. But as I sat with it, as I allowed myself to really think about it and the implications for me, the idea of more than enough was expanded beyond just my physical, tangible needs, right? Just my physical, tangible, like immediate right now. But what would that be like to have more than enough sanity, right? What would that be like to live where I have an abundance of drama freeness, right? So, and that's just verse 1 of Psalm 23, right? And it has 6 verses. But even just that psalm by itself, right? When we truly sit and study it, has the power to um light our path, right? To give you a step by step, but also, and I think more importantly, to remind you that you're not walking alone, that every step is alongside God, and then to let that transform you, to let that transform how you walk, right? To let that transform where you walk, right? And to let that influence um, your pace, even, right? The speed at which you walk, right? So, my going from chaos to now to the calm that's in my life, right, doesn't mean that everything is perfect, but it does mean that when I let um that word sink in, right, when I understood that, oh wait, his word is a lamp unto my feet, when I started to onboard and integrate into my life, like actually make it part of my life, that he's my best friend, I showed up different, right? I showed up different for myself spiritually, but I showed up different in my circles, right? Knowing that God is my best friend made me show up different, right? Like, oh, I'm going into this meeting, I'm going into this situation, I'm walking through this thing, but I have my best friend with me, right? I'm not going at it alone. Knowing that he's my shepherd, being like, oh my gosh, like I have a guide, right? Like I have somebody that can help me navigate this thing and help me be like, okay, step here, not over there, take a rest, right? Drink some water, come back here. Not, you're acting crazy, right? You don't need to say all that. Just come back here. I started to show up different in my own life, right? For myself, for my children, and then by extension, my job and community and um, all the things, which is point number three, that it shapes us, right? That regular Bible study, um, it isn't just good for the soul, but it's essential. It's how we grow. It's how we tune into God's frequency, right? It's how we become who we were made to be. It's how we go from just being um, mere Christians, right? Just checking off the boxes, like, oh, did that, went to church, did the thing. But then we actually become disciples of Christ, right? We see the gospel actually change us and change our situations, right? And I've been a Christian since I was 6. So, like forever, right? Um, so even as an adult, when my life was falling apart all around me, it's not that God had turned his back on me or that he was suddenly unavailable, right? In fact, I saw many people around me that professed to be Christians, and yet it seemed that their faith made no real difference in their lives, right? And so I was watching that. But in 2013, when I hit rock bottom for myself and I cried out to God, um, I was like, if being a Christian is so great, then why didn't it look like it? Why didn't my life look like it? Why didn't my life carry the fragrance of it? Right? Why wasn't I living in this abundant Christian life that people were talking about, right? And that I had read about multiple times. Um, and initially, right, that reaction was coming from like, oh, well, I don't have the house. I don't have $1 million in the bank, right? I don't have a white picket fence. At this point, I'm single again. So, okay, don't even have that. Um, but a funny thing happened is that as I continued to sit with the Bible, like regularly study it, I still, okay, don't have $1 million in the bank, right? Things are still not perfect, right? But the changes began in my mental and emotional health, right? So like I said earlier, like my perspective on things started to shift. My attitude about things started to shift. The way I reacted to things started to shift. So for me, that was the initial like, oh, wait a second, something's happening here, right? Like where I should pop off, okay? And probably have every right to pop off, right? I'm not. Like things that should be setting me off are not setting me off in the same way. Or yes, things are hard 100%, but I don't feel like giving up. Like I feel like, stay the course. We've been promised that in this life we will have troubles of many kinds, right? So God's not surprised by this, right? He even made sure that I know about it in the Bible. So he's not surprised about this. So that then started to give me courage, but also hope to be like, huh, okay, like maybe I don't have to think about this situation like that anymore, right? Maybe I don't have to be angry, right? Maybe I don't have to be an angry Black woman. Maybe that does not have to be who I am, right? Maybe I can let go and forgive And if I do, how is that blessing me, right? Like, what change is that creating in me, right? And so it wasn't all spirit, right? The change wasn't all spirit, but my mind and my emotions got a boost too. And looking back, over 11 years, that's where it needed to start for me, right? My attitude was stinky, okay? I did not have a good attitude. Mentally, I was a mess. Emotionally, I was a mess. And he needed to start there, right? That is exactly where I needed it. Even the steps that he took me on, even looking at Psalm 23, right? It was starting to give me peace in my soul, right? The It was starting to build hope and trust in the one who made me, right? Like, starting to build that muscle of, oh, he's got this, right? No, he's got this. Like, he's my best friend. Like, he's got this. He's not going to leave me out here looking crazy, right? And so, but that time of sitting and digging in, I was expecting something totally different, right? I was not expecting that would be the result, but that's where it started for me, right? Was the emotional um, and the mental just peace and the change that happened there that then led to, what you see now 11 years later, where I'm on this side of the chaos, still growing. None of us is perfect. I still have a lot of hard work to do, but man, to see the difference between now and 11 years ago at 180 degrees, like, I'm a um totally different person, right? And so um part of also that, right? So kind of getting that going is also, don't overlook studying with other people, right? Depending on where you are, like how you're feeling emotionally, it can be easy. I know this from experience, right? But it can be easy to silo or to isolate. But I encourage you to study together, right? If it can't physically be like, oh, physically we can't meet, kids, jobs, life, all the things, we all live in different states, different cities, then join an online Bible study, right? Like Crown Rocker U. Um, Make sure that you have that community, right? Even if it's via Zoom or StreamYard or whatever it is that we use, right? Most likely Zoom. But whatever that is, but having like being able to see somebody else's face, right? Being able to connect and talk to somebody else, having a safe space to start to work these things out is a game changer, right? It's priceless. So um I would say that if you are kind of starting to think about these things, if I've said something and you're like, man, like, I just don't know how to do that by myself, or I don't even know how to navigate that, I'm going to talk about it. But also consider, joining us for Crown Rocker U and doing an online style Bible study. And then we will also, so talking about that, right? Let's talk about kickstarting your habit then, right? Um, so there's many ways to do this. I don't think there's any right way. I think you need to pick the way that works for you. Um, I just say though, keep it fun, keep it interesting, right? Again, don't get bored with the basics. The basics are foundational, they are necessary stepping stones to the very life that you want, to the abundance that we have been promised, right? So there are apps, right? There's plenty of apps that you can use. There's podcasts, so podcasts like this, right? So like the Everyday Crown Rocker. Just doing a Google search will bring up plenty, like blog posts or sample Bible studies. Um, Obviously, I would say, be careful. Eh, I think we're all grown. We all understand that the interwebs is not all. you know, um, sunflowers and roses. So, of course, use your discernment. I wouldn't just, click on any old link or just do any Bible study, but there are a lot of options for you to get started, right? Um, I just plugged it, but Crown Rocker U, right? Online Bible studies. So a community of people coming together online or in person, um, but coming together online for this very purpose to study together, to encourage each other, lift each other up, right? And to keep each other um, passionate and excited about Bible study and about digging in to what, you know, to what it is that is in there, right? And like I said, I started Psalm 23 was where I started, but I also have said that one of the things that I did was look in the back of my Bible, and if it was hope that I needed, or anger, or resentment is what I was dealing with, or bitterness, whatever it was, I would look for verses on that topic and then study those, right? So almost like a topical study, right? And so you can do that too, um, and do it that way too. I just say set realistic goals, right? Reading through the Bible in a month, probably not realistic. Okay. Reading the Bible in a year is hard, right? I have started that twice and I have not completed that, right? I have not completed that yet. So set realistic goals, right? Maybe you start with a verse a day. Or like you just saw me do with Psalm 23, maybe you just take one psalm and you break it down, right? And then it's just you think on, meditate, work through, pray through just that one verse, right? Like, Lord, if you say you're my best friend and you're my shepherd, show me what that looks like, right? What does that look like for you to be my best friend in real life, right? In real in real terms that I can understand. What does that look like in practical ways? What does that look like, right? And sitting in prayer and asking him about it. It could be, I've said it, but joining a Bible study, right, with other women, a safe space where you can start to think about the Bible, but where you can get ideas on where other people have started, how you can start, what might work, right? Um, Another plug. It's not shameless at all because I think it's a good resource. But devotionals, super good, right? I have a 30-day Crown Rocker devotional that is about to come out probably in June. Um, but that's a good place to start as well, right? Where you can break it down, or you can have kind of a guided way to look at that verse on a daily basis, right? So you have some sort of guide that can help you with a starting point. And devotionals come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, right? Some are topical, so on a specific topic. Some might deal with a specific emotion. Some might be more general, right? The everyday Crown Rocker one. So the Crown Rocker 30-day devotional, what is our goal here at the Everyday Crown Rocker? It's to equip you, right? To disciple you to be able to live this thing out every day. And so the topics that I talk about over the 30 days is everyday topics, right? Things that you need to know, or things that you would face every day, and then helping you do the Bible study and helping you dig in to how you can actually start to um, integrate that into your life, right? How you can actually start to let the Word of God transform you and change you and help you be the emotionally and mentally mature person you are supposed to be, right? That you were created to be from jump. So yeah, so set realistic goals. Maybe it's a verse a day, maybe it's just a chapter. The point is start where you are, right? Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, right? But just start. It's about progress. It is not about perfection ever. One step, one verse, one truth at a time is what it's about, right? And then, all right. So Before we wrap up, let me know. So I want to hear from you, right? So what's on your mind about Bible study? If you have questions, go ahead and ask them. If you have comments, again, you know, put your comments down below. But I do want to hear from you, right? Or if you don't have a comment or a question, you could just share this, right? Share this out with somebody that you know could benefit from this. Um, or drop your favorite verse in the comments, right? Or share how how Bible study has touched you, right? Um, but I want you guys to let me know. Like, I don't want to just be talking at you. This is a conversation. So yeah, so let's engage in conversation in the comments, right? So what I asked for you to put in the comments. What's on your mind about Bible study? If you have any questions, be sure to put those in there. Let me know. Um, you can share this with people that you know could benefit. If you have gotten any goodness out of this, I'd love for you to share it. Consider subscribing to the channel as well. Drop your favorite verse or your comments. Yeah, or even just your own stories of how Bible study has touched your life and what change that has made, right? So, yeah, let's get the conversation going and then let's keep it going. All right. So that is all that I had for you. Oh, look at me. I was good. I kept within the 45 minutes that I had allotted myself. But that was today's deep dive over um, the next few weeks. You know, we'll it's going to be fun. We're going to talk about a lot more things, but I wanted to do this deep dive and just kind of give you an overview, also so that you kind of understand my heart behind Crown Rocker U, and why online Bible study, right? Why would Jasmine do that? This is why, right? Because I know firsthand just the power that the word of God can have once you let it do its work, right? Once you engage in it more than just, grazing over it in terms of the fact that your eyes can read, but when you actually engage in it and integrate it into um, your life, right? So keep that Bible close, right? Um, even if it's on your phone. So using the Bible app, I count that too. If you have a physical Bible, brownie points, you get extra brownie points. But keep that Bible close. Make it your daily bread and not just emergency rations, right? Let it fortify you and nourish you and sustain you, right? Instead of just like a quick, you know, instead of it always being like a quick snack, right? Like let it actually nourish you, right? Um, and why we do this is because we are everyday crown rockers, right? Doing our best to live our lives in partnership with our Heavenly Father. And we're allowing Him to add His extra to our ordinary. And part of how we allow Him to add His extra is through Bible study, through digging into His Word, learning who He is, applying it so that we are not living just surface lives, right? But that we're living meaningful lives, right? Not perfect, but purposeful, right? Just meaningful lives that change not just us, but that actually will truly change the world around us, right? Not just checking something, not just a checkbox item, um, but something that checks us, right? Something that we allow to check our motives, to check our mindsets, to check our attitudes, and transform those into into all the goodness that God wanted it to be, right? So that it's the abundance of what He wanted it to be, and then we then can live in a way that produces extraordinary influence on those around us. So yeah, that is it for now. But you guys are loved, and I will see you in the next one.